Right now, you are reading these words and turning them into meaning without effort. Your brain does this automatically. It has done it your whole life. But strip away the words, and something older is still running underneath. Your face, your hands, the space between your body and another person's. These were not extras. For most of human history, they were the message itself. But that's not quite right to call them extras even now. They never stopped being the main signal. You probably assume language started with sounds, grunts that slowly became words. But here's what's fascinating. Many researchers now think the body spoke first, and speech came later, almost as an addition. Gesture, posture, and expression may not be a backup system to language. They may be the foundation it was built on top of. In 1998, Michael Corballis at the University of Auckland argued that human language likely began as gesture, not speech. His reasoning came from the brain itself. The regions that control hand movement and the regions that control speech sit right next to each other and overlap in function, not coincidentally, structurally, which means your brain still treats your hands as part of how you talk. Watch anyone on a phone call, gesturing at no one. That's not a quirk. That's an ancient circuit still firing, long after it stopped being necessary for understanding. But that's only half the story. Because gesture alone doesn't explain how strangers, with no shared language at all, could once cooperate, trade, and warn each other of danger. In 2014, primatologist Frans de Waal at Emory University documented how chimpanzees and bonobos coordinate complex group behavior almost entirely through facial expression, touch, and posture, with no language at all. Now here's where it gets strange. These signals are not random. They follow patterns so consistent that researchers can predict group behavior just by watching faces. Which means your ancestors were running on this same system for millions of years before a single word existed. Long before grammar. Long before names. Your body was already a language, fluent in things words still struggle to say. Fear, trust, submission, belonging. And here's the part nobody talks about. That system never got switched off. It's still the layer underneath everything you say out loud. In 1971, psychologist Albert Mehrabian at UCLA found that when people judge emotional meaning, tone of voice and facial expression carry far more weight than the actual words spoken. His numbers have been debated for decades, but the core finding has held up in study after study. Words are often the least trusted part of communication. Now here's where it gets strange. This means for most of the roughly 300,000 years modern humans have existed, the conversation happening between two people was mostly silent. Words were the latest arrival at a table that had been set for a very long time. The answer changes everything we think we know about what a conversation actually is. So the question becomes, when you speak to someone, is the talking really the communication? Or is it the part your ancestors would have trusted least? Your face moves before you decide it should. Your posture shifts before your mind catches up. If the oldest parts of you are still doing most of the talking, then maybe the words you choose so carefully are not the message. Maybe they're just the part of you that learned, much later, how to lie. Think again about reading these words, turning letters into meaning without effort. Underneath that effortless act, an older system is still running, the one your ancestors used for hundreds of thousands of years before language existed. Corballis saw it in the brain's wiring. De Waal saw it in the faces of our closest relatives. Mehrabian saw it in how little words actually matter. The voice is new. The body was always speaking.